Hey everybody, welcome in this new episode of Juno Live. I hope you are all well, started well the week and ready for some more development, which turned out this week that it won't work out. Yeah, so basically I prepared yesterday today's episode and I noticed that the outcome actually has an issue or would require some more work. Anyway, so I propose that we iterate, we do as if it would work, and along the way I explain why ultimately the solution we wanted to build cannot work. Right? Great. So as a reminder, last few episodes we were building that swap, right, where we are in the app and we ask the permission, blah blah blah. And last week we said, all right, so instead of using the OISY wallet, we can try to build the same signer solution within Juno and make the Juno wallet become the signer. And we were almost finished. There was 2 more calls, and it's what we need to adjust today and what actually is not gonna work. All right, so let me gear up and start all the stuff we need. So here I'm launching the emulator, the Juno console. Here I'm launching the DApp client, and here I'm launching the pseudo OISY wallet. Right, maybe, yes. So if I sign in the app we have developed last few weeks, right? So that's the flow we accept, right? It's like here I have a canister that has 19 T cycles and I want to make a top up with OISY, so I connect my pseudo OISY wallet here. I accept the permission. I made a bit of styling this weekend, it's really shiny now. And here I want to top up with 4 and I approve, and then it goes in that all flow where we approve the backend and then the backend does the stuff and blah blah blah. And if I refresh here, I guess I have 20C, right? So that worked well, and now we said, okay, we want to do the same stuff with the Juno wallet. So last week we added Juno here, and we started adding the signer root in the Juno console. Here I did a bit of design this weekend, so here I can sign in, and you see it's the same like here. Now I'm gonna accept the permission, so that's new. I made a bit of styling again, it's really fresh. And if I approve, I end up is the same flow here. And what I added this weekend is the fact that Juno respond with 2 accounts. And I'm gonna select the second one because the second one has ICP. And now we're gonna land on the issue. So let's say I want to make that approval, same flow. Here you see, it failed. It says the sender must match the owner of the signer. So what's happening here? The OISY Wallet Signer library that we are using to add the signer capabilities to Juno actually throw that exception that says approver blah blah, the sender must match the signer. So if I look, I have the code here that is checked out, so we're gonna search in the source code. So what's happening? It's here, it says it throws this error, and when does it throw this error is when here, you see. So in the signer service, there is an assert sender function. And this is called when it prepares the consent message. And basically what he says, if the one that requests that call is not the owner of the account that is targeted, throw an error. And while potentially I can maybe, let's say, okay, I make a fork of the library and I remove that check. The thing is, like, on Juno, we are not using the identity that is derived in the platform when we sign in, because that's not the wallet of the developer. The wallet of the developer is the mission control. That's a smart contract. And it's done that way because the developer has the control over the wallet, and me, the provider of Juno, has no control of it, while to some extension I have some control on the signing in. So if even we would change this, that will not work, because if we look at here, my wallet, you see here my wallet ID is not the same as as my developer ID. It's like I think we have that in the architecture somewhere. So my developer ID is here, but as a developer, my wallet is my mission control here. So even if we would approve and execute the call, we need to be here. So yeah, long story short, that cannot work. So one way would be to implement something where I derive an identity just for that transaction based blah blah blah, or within the wallet we implement kind of the same API as the approval, but that would mean that every client that wants the approve has to do that. Yeah, long story short, it's so much work and maybe not something we want right now. Anyway, what I suggest is, since now I have in this mask added the two accounts, we continue to build with the first. We just do the adjustment so that it has ICP, and then in that way we see how you can fully implement a signer, and we keep that for as a draft for later in the future where we implement it, right? Okay. So if everybody is agree, what I'm gonna do first is I will transfer ICP to my developer ID. That way we can work locally, right? Alright. Another thing, I've transferred some ICP, but here I see less, but that's not a wallet in Juno. So let's retry here. Let's retry. Alright, so here we see we have some, and now if I do that I will have, or at least I hope I should have, another error. Yes, or I don't have an error, I have nothing, because here now we are effectively requesting the approval, and here we are there, right? We have not yet implemented the UI, so of course if the UI is not implemented, then yeah, nothing is displayed. Clever when I want. So let's do that. and I'm not gonna re-implement the wheel. What I will do is I will look at OISY source code, and I assume that there should, no, I don't assume, I have implemented it myself, I know. There is signer, there is like a signer consent message, right? And when this event is triggered, it displays a loader or it displays the consent message, right? If we where can I do that? Yeah. All right, so let's do that. In Juno, in the front-end application, component, signer, we're gonna even create the same name. That way we're really on the same path. All right, and I will take this like that. Here we add to do, and I will remove this because we're gonna do that. Alright, so I've changed that this weekend, which means that we are now using the same store strategy as OISY, but we will change this because I'm using Svelte v5. So like this, we just create some states, which basically the same, right? But I don't know, just my machine that is slow, which is good, I guess. All right, and what do we do here? Here we are, all right, and actually you see it's where it's wrong. So here we need a derived because we get this from the payload that comes here. So we're gonna do this. So if non-nullish and the payload is result, then I'm not sure. Ah yeah, it's a store, otherwise undefined. Okay. Fucking hell. What does it say? It's really hard to work sometimes with this super zoomed screen. Alright, so yes, so here it's gonna be approved. Alright, great. So now let's do the same for reject, and let's do the same for consent info. Alright, there. Okay, then here that's a state for sure, and here we have another state. Alright, then that is gonna be the same. So when we gonna see that, and here we need an error message. So right now I'm just gonna do that. So toast dot error text, and we will just print this as such. No. here that stay the same, and here it's interesting. So when the payload kicks in, we want to do something with the payload. So for context, this is like there is a bit of logic, but it's a store context, and in the store context it listens to the message received by the client. You see, for example, here we have signer, register, consent message, and if the consent message is received, it pushes that in the store. So in the component we can hook on the store. So when the store kicks in, we want to dispatch the information. So that's why that in Svelte v5 we're gonna do this. So I will, and we do on payload like that. All right, and then that's a text, and that's the same, I guess. What does it do? Yes, so here we're gonna do text is there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is here derived, and we put that in it. All right, and then on approve, that's the same as before. Toast.error. We take this like this, tac tac tac, with a to do, and here, so same. All right, so what's happened so far is here I take the store context, I derive the approval, the reject, that are the function that we should manually call if the user says approve or reject, and the consent info is what we want to display. And when we get something, we just do a bit of splitting the information, and here there is a loading because we take the consent message. All right, so if we go back to our application, tac tac, so now here I should display a to do. No, not yet, because signer, consent, message. Yeah, you see, we have it, right. So okay, if it's loading, we want to display something, so let's do that. When the consent message is loading, we want to display a text. So what we gonna display, we can use this component here that just display a spinner and a text, and here just put that like this so that we know. All right, so yeah, we don't see much, I guess, at this point, but if it's fast locally, I don't think we necessarily gonna see something. Yeah, you see, here we saw briefly the loading, right? All right, and once the consent message is loaded, we split it, which is nice. We add a form with the title, why not? Right, I'm gonna take the fade option for a smooth display, And am I using title here? I don't think so. I think no. So let's just see what's happening. And here, prevent default doesn't exist anymore in Svelte v5. So what we have to do, we have to do that, and here we have to event submit event, and here we have to prevent default like that. You see, we have it. Authorize another address to prove. Nice. Okay. So that's the title. Okay. And I guess, what did I do here? Signer origin. Yeah, I don't have a title per se. I think what we do, let's just do a P for now. And then what they do is the content, what I did. We display the origin, so we want to do the same. So I think I have that component already. Yes, so we can take this. I added this weekend, so it's really important to display the origin, because otherwise the user can be tricked, you know, like if you don't display where it comes from, like how can you really trust the request if you don't know where it comes from? And then display a warning. Tac. Okay. Yeah, I see. Okay. So that's something really specific. It's because the signer, if we target a ledger that does not support ICRC21, the signer library will try to generate the message on the fly. So it's important to show the user why. And by the way, ICRC21, I guess it's interesting to know what it is. Here we go. So ICRC21 is the standard that defines what messages or response or consent message, or what API a target canister should expose to provide those consent message. Because again, we don't want the code to go through automatically. It's always defined as that a client requests something, then the signer displays the consent message, then the user approve or reject, but only if they approve, then the calls happens. And the consent message, to be trustable, must come from the target canister with an update call. Because that way it's a consent message that has been certified. So when the user read it, they can have trust in it. Alright, so that was I hope my explanation makes sense, because I did them quite quickly. So yeah. So blah blah blah, we gonna make interface, and we're gonna transform this into maybe I can update OISY afterwards, because OISY has now been migrated to Svelte v5. So what we do here is basically, I could potentially re-inject that, and the same here. So that's a derived. That's a nice exercise. All right, and we want to have a warning. So I think I should have a component for that now. Warning. So I have a component called warning, I think, in Juno here, right? And we just take a text, so we will use that text, and just to test it I will put it outside here, and where was I? Here we're gonna force the display of that warning. So you see here I would have a warning. Of course it doesn't look good because I don't display text, blah blah blah, but here we would have a warning just in case. Alright, and that warning again happen only if the ICRC, the consent message, is generated for a ledger that does not implement consent message yet. So it's really specific. And yeah, nice. No, the markdown. Do I have a markdown renderer? I don't think I have one in Juno. I have a JSON renderer, but yeah, I don't have markdown. Alright, so we're gonna skip that. We're just gonna render this. Let's do something like that too. Let's call it markdown, and here we add an article code, and here we parse the content, and yeah, something like that, right? It's not gonna be beautiful, but it's not even beautiful at all. I think I should have something better. Warning code, no, JSON code. What do I use? Yeah, does that do the trick? JSON code. What does it take? JSON. Let's see, maybe. Yeah, for now that will do. So, and here that's the message that we get. Of course, we should make that a bit more beautiful. And finally, we need the buttons to approve or reject the message, right? So, I guess here I had two buttons, so we're gonna do the same. I take this, and here I'm gonna put those. So, if I click reject, blah blah blah, if not defined, it's an error. Otherwise, it calls the reject that was derived from the payload, and if I approve, then it will effectively do the call, right? So here now I should have two buttons, reject and approve. Alright, I'm gonna reject. Okay. Loading, where is it? What happens? Why? Again. So, connection. Funny. What did I do wrong? Let's check, let's debug this. So, does it mean that this text here remains undefined? Where is my oh, am I? Is it closing all the time? My my stuff here. It's annoying. Alright, maybe we don't come in. Yeah, of course, if we don't come in it, then it works a bit less well. So so we're just gonna check that we indeed comes here. Reload. Yes. And we also want to check that we comes here, markdown. All right, so let's try again. All right, so we have markdown undefined payload, then we have the payload, you see loading, then we received it with result with the consent info that is provided by the targeted canister, but we don't come back to payload, to markdown, so this means that this derived text does not work. So it does not work because display message because felt v5. I don't know. Let's put a display message here to see if we set the value. It's maybe because it's encapsulated in a function and I should use an effect. Yeah, can good be. So, hoopla. Again. Yeah. Oh. Huh. What? What? So, consent info. Wait. Ah, no, sorry. What? Did I write some code here for some reason? Yeah, I'm drunk. So, what? So, consent info message, what do we have here? We should have okay. What? All right. It's a bit weird. Oh. Mais ouais. So here we have undefined and undefined. Interesting. Yeah, especially when it reloads, it works. So I don't believe there is much. Not really a big issue. It's just a bit annoying to debug since every time we have to retry. But let's see that. All right. So we have the payload, but the consent info. Ah, you see why? So basically my error is that here I'm using consent info, but I start the hook with payload, so it's that derive here happens after the payload. So here in that function, that svelte v5 stuff, if we run the effect only on it, we cannot assume that the derive has been done. It's interesting. So it means that here I basically have to do that, I think. And is that consent info used elsewhere? If not, it's here. All right. So it's a bit annoying. Let's do that. Almost. Map consent info, right? And we do that from the payload, I guess. Yeah. For this, yes, I hate double code. So here we're gonna do this. Alright, but then I need the types of the payload, and the payload is of type this. Alright, and the consent info is of type that. So here we gonna do, you know what, I think I'm even more dumb than I think. Here I forgot to derive, so we can assume it's we cannot assume that I know what I'm doing. Alright, so now it should work. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was a small typo, but a nice one. Alright, so it's just because it was a state, so it was assigned once and not derived, so that's why actually I do not have to reinvent the wheel. Yes. Alright, so we have our consent info and we have all the buttons that are ready, so I just gonna format the code. We will do that, and then when I gonna approve, it will effectively run the code. So I guess that, what do we do in OISY? I guess we show an animation, right? So what this component do is it show an animation when it's processing, and when it's finished it either say everything went alright, or oh no, it didn't work. Okay, so we're gonna do the same, and then we are finished. So send message, alright, and let's create a signer call canister here. So let's go, and here we do the same as before. I take the code, and there is no particular properties here, so that's the same as before. I take this, here it's toast dot error. Right, we have some details, that's nice. Okay, we need to change this. It's the same as before, like that here. All right, and we are good. So now, come on, text. And yes, and now what we want to do, if the status, so when what does the signer library do? When a call canister is running, here is you register that, and basically the signer will emit, call the prompt the first time, say it's running, then it calls the prompt a second time with it went out, or it went out, it was okay or it was not okay. So that's why here we can just listen on the status. So and here error, okay, and I will take the same paragraph stuff that we are before, this one, and we're gonna do, let's do that, loading consent message, and here we will say executing call, right? And we're not gonna be really fancy. Do I have a fade here? Not even. That would be nice to have one. So I think here I should have a fade somewhere. Yes. So let's do just bare minimal. Success. And otherwise we say error. And yeah, I guess that's an icon, we don't need that. So let's try it. So if it works fine, now when I'm gonna approve, it should display executing, and after it executed it should have success. So I approve. Yeah, it worked out, but I forgot. I did the same mistakes as before. I forgot to use the new component. Call canister. Right. So let's try again. From scratch. All right. Reject. I want to be sure to have it clean. Again. Ready? Executing. Success. Bada boom. And if we assert the cycles just to be sure that indeed it works out, here we have 32. So we top up with 4. Here we have a consent message and success. And if we go here, 36. Woohoo! Alright, so that would be for that solution that does not work. So I will a bit summarize what we implemented, right? So to add the signer capabilities to an app like the Juno console or Juno Wallet, you install that library called Definity OISY Wallet Signer. When you have that signer, either you go for the same implementation as in OISY, where you have a store, and in that store you create a context, and then you kind of have like a you hide some logic in it. Otherwise, you just declare the signer somewhere in your app. If you want to work locally, you need to pass a host with the replica address, and you need to implement a disconnect. By the way, in addition to disconnect, I implemented that yesterday. No, you implement a disconnect. Then you have to register what is called in that library prompt. And in prompt, it's just like you have to register callbacks, because when the signer becomes a message from the message, it defers the responsibility of treating that message to your DApp. So you have to handle the request for permission, which is say, can I view your account? Can I do this? The request for accounts, which is the one that we use when here it's called, then it gives that list of the account, right? And then you have to implement consent message, which is the one that we have implemented today, that displays a title and a content, so that is the message that the user is supposed to read and to acknowledge or not. And finally, you have a last prompt, which is the call canister, which allows you to implement an animation and a success message or an error. And once you have that, you have your signer that is implemented. Right. So I will keep the branch as a draft, because on one way, maybe I will bump Svelte v5 in OISY, but also at some point we will implement it in the Juno Wallet 2. I just need to figure out how I want to deal with the fact that the wallet of the developer is mission control. And before we actually finish what we started last few weeks, the ECP 2-cycle swap, I propose that next week you jump in the call and we actually have a look to the new secret project Sputnik that have been developed last few weeks, and we're gonna actually rewrite what we have really quickly, what we have done last few weeks with Sputnik. So a big chunk of code with change, and that's gonna be a nice sneak peek. Alright, so as always, if you have questions, ping me anytime. Enjoy your week and